how you went from an Apache pilot to cheese dip founder.
Military was exciting. The flying was exciting, but this could be a whole different level of excitement. Sometimes it feels that way being an entrepreneur. It's like you're just trying to survive. I get a phone call from the Department of Agriculture and they're like, hey, shut it down. You can't do that. I was weeks or days away from losing it all. I'm getting photos of customers from all over that are taking a picture of my product and it's got mold. I just remember laying on the couch here at the house and I'd exhausted everything.
Welcome to Behind the Skew. This show exists because most people, they see the product, the tub of queso on the shelf, the bold label, the veteran flag, but they don't see what it actually took to get there. The deployments, the kitchen experiments, the store losses, the ones won back. And this isn't a pitch. It's just a real unfiltered conversation. And today I'm sitting down with Andrew Arbogast. He is a former U.S. Army Apache helicopter pilot and the founder of Arbo's Cheese Dip, and someone who took a family recipe, combat veterans mindset, and built a nationally distributed brand out of sheer grit. Before we get into everything, so I really got to ask you though, how you went from an Apache pilot to cheese dip founder. When you say that out loud, that's gotta sound pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It feel pretty awesome.
Well, man, it was one of those jobs, obviously, that you're like, well, I can't fly Apaches in the civilian world. There's not really a job for that. And I knew that I was going to have to transition, right? That was inevitable. I don't think I was, wasn't planning to be a lifer in the military. So I did my commitment of 10 years and, had the kids and I'm like, all right, it's time to hang it up. What now? And I wanted this next challenge. And I'm like, oh, maybe I could fly. And then quickly found out that wasn't going to be an option. Less pay, more dangerous work activities. I decided I was like, I'm gonna go corporate because I can make a bunch of money and figure out something new to set myself up for success. I don't know, buy a lake house. These are the little things that I had planned with my financial advisor and my wife. We're like, hey, if we just continue this path and this growth model and we invest and save this much money, we'll be able to buy that lake house. We'll be able to have freedom and financial freedom, that sort of thing. And I didn't realize how boring that was. It sounds good, but it was like, I'm not going to be able to do this cubicle thing. Man, it's like, I think it was my fate to end up at a paper company right after the military, because it's like, you can't go from a cockpit to a cubicle and expect excitement. I just love, I don't want to say I love risk, but I love kind of living on the edge a little bit. I have to be a little more risk adverse now that I have a family and it's I don't have 9 lives, right? So, I just thought that at the time when I did decide that I love cooking, and it's like my dad has this recipe and this cheese dip recipe, and I can figure out man, how do I put it into a tub and how do I get a barcode and all those things? But that idea, that vision was so big, so broad, and it went from I know the military was exciting. The flying was exciting, but this could be a whole different level of excitement where I'm not getting shot at, right? Sometimes it feels that way being an entrepreneur. It's like you're just trying to survive and everyone's trying to kill you. There's so many
Yeah.
where you're just in survival mode. But I think it was just I need to find something that's going to bring the thrill of what life has to offer. And it just ended up being cheese dip. And it actually kind of came from, a deployment in Afghanistan, where I love food and I had people, family shipping me food, charcuterie boards, basically. And so I remember I was like, that feeling of bringing my guys together to break bread before we go on a mission, it just increased morale. And I'm like, that's it. That's it. Here we are 7 years later after that. And cheese dip's going to be the solution to it all.
Yeah, I say that all the time about just food and even beverages too. I mean, you have a conversation or some of the most interesting conversations over a couple of beers. There's something about the food and beverage space that really kind of brings you together, having a meal with somebody, like you were saying, building that camaraderie over that. And you touched on kind of a little bit of the origination, I think, of where the cheese dip came from. So it's a generational recipe, right?
Yeah, yeah. My grandmother passed it down to my dad, and it was actually his mother-in-law, right? So she used to make it, and he started making it. He started doing some other things and tweaking it a little bit. So that recipe I knew from from my early childhood, like how to make it. And my dad, I didn't live. I grew up here in Memphis, but I left for high school. I went to a boarding school in Arkansas, college, Missouri, active duty for 10 years, and so it was kind of like my piece of home that brought me comfort wherever I was. And so I made it for other people. And it just was a staple, no matter what. Like no matter the event, no matter the gathering or whatever, it's like bring the cheese dip. Okay. And so I knew that it wasn't going to be some concept that wasn't untried and wasn't proven. I was like, I've got this great product. And what I didn't realize was you can have a home recipe that works great, but it has a shelf life of what, 7 days? Now, we never let it get to 7 days. It was gone probably within a day. But you think about how do I get that recipe into a container and then preserve it, chill it, ship it across the US and hope that it sells within a 30-day period, right? And so my shelf life used to be like it was like 2 weeks, and then I got it up to 30 days. And then I realized like, man, that's way too low for the supply chain. And so I had to continue to evolve and, add ingredients that could be natural preservatives. So like maybe some more tomatoes because that acidity level gives it a longer shelf life. And so all the trial and error, man. And it's like, if you think about how much cheese dip I've thrown away or has been thrown away, it could probably feed a
It breaks
small.
my heart.
Yeah, I know. It probably could feed a small country. Now, you wouldn't want to feed it to them because it was moldy and busted up, whatever it may be. But it's like going through this recipe, homemade recipe to getting it on the shelf. In theory, it wasn't a nightmare to me at the time because I was up for it. I'm like, I don't care what it takes. It takes me a year to figure this out. I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep trying. And that to me has been one of the most one of the biggest accomplishments. I'm not a food science nerd. I mean, all respect to the food science folks, right? But like being able to do that myself with the help of others, of course, but keeping the same taste profile formula for the most part, it's like it almost tastes better than it did from the kitchen, which is crazy to me. So usually it's the opposite, right? But it's been a fun challenge and
Yeah.
we figured it out.
Yeah, yeah. Culinary is such an art. Um, just the combination of different ingredients that work with each other and, like you said, like just adding a little bit more of a natural preservative of tomatoes, like who thinks of that? Like, the normal people we're like, oh, don't add, we
Yeah.
wouldn't think, add more tomatoes to your cheese dip to make it last longer. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a science and it's an art. But I want you to kind of walk me through those early days that you talked about of actually trying to, the trials and the errors and trying to get into the stores. What is maybe something you didn't know then that you wish something
Yeah.
now that you
Yeah.
didn't know then
Man,
that probably would have helped you save so much time and a lot of cheese dip, it sounds like.
well, interestingly enough, there was the way this all kind of like how did you start building it? How'd you scale it? And
Mm,
I started in my kitchen, start with the original size batch, double it, triple it. Before you know it, I'm buying like 60 quart pots to make this stuff in my kitchen. And my wife's like, where are you going to put that pot when you're done with it? And I'm like, I'm just going to keep making cheese dip. So it's going to stay here. Um, and I knew two things like that wasn't a long-term strategy or even a short term. It was more about like, can I do this? Can I make it at this size? And I knew that you can't sell product on the grocery store shelf that you make in your home kitchen. It's got to be like a certified kitchen. So I thought, all right, my buddy has a breakfast spot and they close at 2 o'clock. So he's like, take the key, man. So I would go into that restaurant when I got off work, like every weekday, right? And I would go in and just make so much of it. I'd have like 4 40 quart pots going at once. I'd burn two of them, but the other two were good, right? So it's like you get busy, you're doing something over here, you're opening up cans. And before you know it, it's like you smell this burning cheese and you're like, oh my gosh, it was heartbreaking because you're like, I just used $100 of cheese into those pots that I now have to throw away. But making it in that kitchen was to me a viable way to grow. And that's what I did. And I ended up like hiring one of their employees who wanted some extra work. So I'm like, all right, this is it. This is the formula. I'm like, oh, hey, sign this NDA. I was such a dork, man. I'm like, I was so protective of like this formula, and I'm asking people to do this, but I'm like, you sign this legal paperwork. So you, you know,
Hey, that's a good idea. Look where you are now.
it's cover
So
your tracks. But
yeah,
I began to realize like how hard this was. And I'm like, no one's going to do this. No one's going to try to do this. But then, I start selling it that way. It's like we're making it in the restaurant. We're flash chilling it. So putting it in the freezer, getting it down to the right temperature that, you have to get it to kill, make sure there's no bacteria. And then from there, it's like we're pouring it into these honey buckets. And these honey buckets are 6-gallon buckets with this large spout on the bottom, obviously for something viscous or thick as honey. And so we're pouring it into tubs like that, each tub, sealing it. We're packing them in like Home Depot moving boxes. And that's how I'm delivering them to the first grocery store that brings us on. And they didn't care, man. They loved it. They loved seeing like that hustle and the bootstrapping. And, I had this perfect container. It's like ingredient spec, nutrition fact panel, barcoding. Like it was legitimate. It didn't look like your, farmer's market style product. But so it's like, that's how I started growing. And then I had stores lined up because it became such a hit. And they're like, hey, can we have it? I'm like, yes, you're next. You're next. And then I just had to put in more hours, make more cheese dip, buy more cheese, buy more ingredients. And then before you know it, something happens, right? It's like there's something that's not in that formula that's going to make it resilient to room temp, right? So it's like you can go and sell it to a store and they put it on the shelf, but if that refrigeration isn't below 40 degrees, then you've got bubbling. Basically, you have like a ticking time bomb. I mean, the tub is about to explode because all this, it's like the CO2 builds up. I don't know, again, the food science stuff, but it's like, it was bad. And I'm risking my brand being exposed as like a bad product because of all these things. So eventually it's like I figured that part out, add a preservative that's going to help. And then before you know it, I get a phone call from the Department of Agriculture and they're like, hey, where are you making your product? And I'm like, oh, this, this restaurant kitchen. They're like, shut it down. You can't do that. I'm like, why? It's certified, or like the health department comes, they're like, this is food manufacturing, buddy. This is not restaurant. You are in a food manufacturing space. You cannot do that. So it's like I had to
yeah,
shut it down,
whole
man.
different set of rules.
Whole
Yeah,
different set of rules. But it's like I could have done a little research along the way, but it's like going through that helped me so much. And so that pushed me to go find a co-packer. So that problem of, I don't know, you can call like that failure of, how am I going to do this now? No, that just like pushed me to go find not just a commercial kitchen, but someone, an outfit that can make this for me, a co-packer, right? And that's exactly what I did. Gave it to the co-packer, gave them the formula, signed this NDA, and let's go get into Kroger. And boom, it happened just like that.
yeah. What was that like getting that call? Kroger wants your cheese dip in their store. I call myself a Krogie, so I shop at Kroger. I'm here in Georgia. They're all over the place.
Oh yeah,
That's my spot.
man, it's literally I'm in there every day, like just picking up spaghetti sauce or something we need to make dinner. And this Kroger that we go to, it is beautiful. It's like as soon as you walk into that fresh deli, we have a whole end cap, a bunker basically, and it is shoved full of Arbo's cheese dip because it sells so well. And it's like I go in there and whenever I have one of my kids with me, they're like, we know, Dad. I'm gonna point at it. But they've started going over to it and like making sure all the facings are perfectly and stacking them up. And I'm like, it makes me a proud dad. But getting into Kroger was the biggest accomplishment in the first 2 years of me doing this because it took a year of me knocking on the door saying, please give me a chance. Just try the product, right? And they try the product. They're like, this is incredible. We'll call you back. And then no call, right? No, the follow-ups, nothing. The decision maker changes out. It's somebody new and it's like starting over for a full year. But eventually you push long enough, respectfully, you're persistent enough. Eventually they're like, all right, we're going to give you 50 stores. And I'm like, what? That's incredible. And then the next day they come back and they're like, hey, we made a mistake. We're going to do 100 stores. I'm like, oh, dang, man, this is it. And so
Yeah, what a what a good mistake to make.
I know. So
Actually,
like
wait, no, not 50. We're gonna put you in
it was 100.
100
Yeah.
stores.
Yeah.
You're
We
like,
messed up. We
yeah,
messed
twist
up.
my arm.
Yeah. So it went from like, Memphis local area to Nashville and kind of everywhere in between. That was October of 22, about 2 years after I started it. Once I got into Kroger, that was literally like the anchor of, all right, now I have legitimacy. I have brand awareness. I can now go to the Publix, the Harris Teeters, the Schnucks, the Walmarts and say, we're in Kroger. And that carried so much weight. However, that's how I viewed it, but it didn't work that way. And it took me really a lot more growth, a lot more learning before I could actually get in. And I was told no, thankfully, because if I would have got into some of those places at that time, it would have been an absolute disaster.
Yeah, yeah, and I know if you're open to going here, I know you've mentioned in your background that you have navigated that maybe near bankruptcy and loss being in thousands of stores. I don't know if that's related to what you just mentioned, but kind of like what happened there once you
Absolutely.
got to that point?
Oh man, yeah. So it's like even before the bankruptcy was staring at me, it was like, I'm now 6 months into Kroger and something is happening with my formula, meaning I'm getting photos of customers from all over that are taking a picture of my product and it's got mold. And Scotty, I'm not talking like a little bitty speck, dude. I'm talking like black mold. And I was like, what is going on? Right. And I'll never know other than the fact that I couldn't control it anymore. Right. It's like I'm sending everything, all the ingredients are going to the co-packer. What is happening during the formulation that is causing this to have to occur 20, 30 days later? And so again, I had to take another tactical pause. It's like I had to shut it down and stop shipping orders because I'm like, for one, I do not want to get anybody sick. That's first and foremost, right? And two, why would I sell this product until I figure out how to make it better and how to improve the shelf life and everything? And so what ended up happening is like it forced me to find a bigger, more efficient manufacturer. And so again, it's like that problem could have killed it. If I wasn't really in it, I would have said, this was fun while it lasted, but I'm not cut out for this. But I was like, no, hell no, I'm going to figure this out. And so that led me to a new co-packer. And once I got to this new co-packer who had told me no so many times, I was now at the volume to where they're like, all right, come on in, let's talk. And I saw their process. I saw the safety aspect of it, the cleanliness, the operation as a whole was like, not only was it better taste wise and shelf, like it brought me from 30 days to 120 days shelf life because of how they cooked it. And at that point, it's like, all right, now get serious. Start reaching out to all these retailers that either responded once and never responded again, but like you have more to bring to the table than you did before. You can now say that, I'm using this SQF3 certified facility. They're already shipping you product that they private label for you, all these things, right? And I rebranded along the way because my first brand of Arbos, it didn't even say like veteran owned, right? It just was kind of more Memphis themed than anything else. And someone along the way was like, if you don't put something on your container that screams veteran owned, like you were doing yourself and your service a disservice. And I was like, all right, fine. It was a weird thing I just didn't want to do because that's not why I served, but it's like I can still do that. And that's part of the American dream. It's something I fought for. So why not cash in on it? Right. And so I changed it, rebrand, new co-packer, and boom. In October of 23, I pitch at Walmart's open call. I win the golden ticket. The same day I was there, I get a call from another retailer saying they're bringing me in. So I just went from like 100 stores to 600 within a day, not actually launching that day, but like growth wise. And then 30 days later, Blix, Harris Teeter, Nux. So I grew from like the 200 stores to 2,000 in a matter of 90 days and, a couple states to 20. So at that point, I'm like, all of this was worth it. All of the late nights, the missing significant events, the blood, sweat, and tears, like all of it, it's finally paying off. Right. and everything starts to work very well. I'm getting these large orders. It's like, man, the biggest order I'd ever had was, $5,000. Now it's like $300,000. So I'm like, we're rich, right? Well, I took all that money after paying off the manufacturer for the cost of goods and the freight and all the other things, the overhead. I took those dollars and I put them right into digital advertising, right? I was spending like 20 grand a month on Meta, Instagram, Facebook, like YouTube ads. I was doing all this stuff. And people were telling me not to, but I was like, no, this is the right way to do it. Like, and what happened is I just pissed away all that money because not only did it not work, it was such it just didn't work. So really, there's nothing more to it. It's
Yeah.
like you can't. Yeah, that's a lot of money that could be that could be well used in advertising if, in a concentrated area. But you can't take that and expand it for 20 states and 1,000 zip codes and expect to even scratch the surface, right? Well, it's like I'm spending this money, and I'm not expecting an immediate return. I'm like, give it 6 months of doing this, and 6 months later, you're out. You're discontinued
Yeah.
from this retailer. You're discontinued from that retailer. I'm leaving one retailer because they're throwing away cheese dip that doesn't sell and not paying me, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. And so this is all basically when it came to a screeching halt of I owe my co-packer money. I don't have the AR to cover that one. I haven't paid myself in 6 months. And this is where it all ends. That was kind of my breaking point. That was in June of 2024. And gosh, I still remember it. So I just remember like laying on the couch here at the house and I'd exhausted everything. I had fought. I'd burned bridges because this was so personal to me. And I couldn't believe that a company, a multi-million, maybe billion-dollar company could take away something from a small business. And when I say take away, it's like not pay you for a product that they ordered. And that was the reality. That's the cost of doing business, of getting into big retail, and why I now say like slow is good, right? At the time, no one could tell me to go slow. I'm like, nope, I'm moving at light speed. And so eh, all of it kind of just came to a breaking halt. And I kind of, I didn't give up, Scotty, but I threw my hands up and fell back on my faith and said, God, I don't know what you want me to do right now, but I'm not in control anymore. In my head, I'm like, I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to lose my home. My wife's going to divorce me and all these bad, bad, bad thoughts. It wasn't but a week later, even if that I get a call from someone here in Memphis, brings me in and they're like, I know what's going on. I heard, or, it's like, I was obviously very vocal about it because I don't know how else to be, right? I wear my emotion on my sleeve. And, it's like, yeah, it's over. If you want the company, you can have it all 100%. I'll work for you. I need a paycheck, right? I got to be able to pay my mortgage and support my family and all these things. And that person was basically like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take care of the friends and family piece, buy your partners out. We're going to fund this to the point where you don't have to worry about month to month. And we're going to take care of all the back end operations, the orders, the financials, the freight, the marketing, everything. They're like, you go be Arbo. And it was a miracle. I have no other way to describe it other than an absolute miracle, because it's like I'm either 600 grand in debt and going to go bankrupt, or I give up my company. And guess what? They wouldn't take the company. They said, you're going to keep majority ownership. You're going to stay veteran owned. And that's the moment where I was like, this person had every reason to take full advantage of the situation and say like, yeah, we're going to take 100%, but expect you to still go perform. And they didn't. And so that's why I'm like, all the things that I did in the right way for the right reasons, and all the stuff I went through, it was so worth it, right? It's like I was weeks or days away from losing it all to this is not just a new beginning, but a better chance than what I had before to continue on this mission, this brand, this vision and teach my kids something, right? Like that's what it's all about. And to me, it's like if I can show my kids that doing something bigger than what people tell you, and if you can believe in yourself and you have the intestinal fortitude to do it, take the chance and do it. And so that's why
Absolutely.
I'm just like, still to this day, I wake up and I have a smile on my face. I'm tired. Dude, I'm so tired, Scotty. But it's another day that I get to go and hopefully crush this thing. And one day, my goal is that my family name, Arbogast, my dad's recipe, we're all Arbo. It's like if this thing is nationwide and it's a staple in people's homes, I'm like, that is the dream. It's not about the money. It's about doing something that everyone always told you you couldn't do, or that's not the right way, or it's not going to work that way, and proving everybody wrong. It's like, but proving to yourself too that you were capable of doing it. I mean, that's just as important. But man, I guess I just have a chip on my shoulder that I hope one day will go away, but I'm not ready to give up yet. So
Yeah, and I think that's the story people actually need to hear, right? Is, going through this rebuilds and like business in itself is just such a roller coaster up and down. Yeah, I've been there too. Those long days of being like, I don't know how this is going to work, like building my advisory firm and taking that chance, leaving my nice corporate job and taking a chance. And yes, many days very tired, having young kids too. But that's amazing that somebody, came at a time when you really needed it and was able to step in and help you do that and really kind of pick the business back up and grow it to what it is now. I mean, you're in your national retail distribution and um, killing it. So, 3
man,
manufacturing facilities, I mean, that's a real scale, and I think from the smaller scale that you were to then at that point where you're having another big dip, like growth at that type of level of Walmart, Kroger, Publix, 20 states, multiple manufacturing facilities, like that comes along with a lot of its own set of problems just being at that growth at that level.
oh man, yeah. Someone early on was like, learn about the bell curve. Like, I don't need your your bell curves. But if you looked at the last 5 years, it's like, you know, first year 97,000, second year 200, third year 1.4 million, fourth year
Yeah.
then with 600 grand in debt. And then fifth year, we're back up. And all those stores I lost, I regained. Not 2,000. To me, the store count is no longer a thing. It used to be a thing. I used to be like, whether it was vanity metrics or bragging rights, I don't know what, but it's like I could care less about how many doors I'm in. All I care about is that we're not losing money, is that we're profitable, and we are delivering a product that people love, and it's clean ingredient. It's so different and bold and I don't want to say spicy. This is not hot, but it's like no cheese dip you've ever had, Scotty. And that's all I want, man. It's like just do the basic things in the right way, and it has worked out. I had to learn to make some better decisions, but in the end, it's like someone believed in me and someone gave me another chance. And even to this day, when I proclaim that this person, as I'm doing now, is like my savior, they're like, no, no, I'm not that. What you are is what we believe in. That's why we did it. We love who you are. Yes, you have the cheese dip, obviously, but it's you that we invested in. And that really hits hard because you're just like, man, I am worthy. I am doing the right things, because it's so easy to look in the mirror and be like, you're a failure. You should have done this differently. You should have done that. Or, you went with your gut, or you made a decision your gut was telling you no, and it's like you can sit there and blame yourself all day, but at the end it's like all of this stuff is happening for a reason, and no one loves a boring success story, right? It's like you got to go through hell in order to make it. And man, turning 5 years was a huge milestone, because that's what my my one of my best friends, I also call him an entrepreneurial mentor, told me, was that if at the very beginning, he said, if you don't do this, you're not who I thought you were. And so that stuck. And then he also followed up with, oh, and by the way, over 90% of startups fail in the first 5 years. And I was like, gosh, man, the two most like conflicting things within a conversation. But that's what I needed to hear. Dang,
Yeah,
man.
those 2 hit hard. Yeah, especially that first one.
Yeah.
But that second one, that is very true. Yeah, I believe Department of Labor statistics from 24, I don't know if there's new ones out now, but, yeah, more than 50% of every business that starts in the US does not make it past 5 years. So, being able to hit that 5-year milestone, you've already beat the statistic wildly.
Oh,
So,
gosh.
that's a good thing, and I think especially having, you know, having somebody behind you, it sounded like they handle a lot of the finances and things like that. A lot of small businesses, especially in this space, don't have that type of backing, they don't have that type of wherewithal, and so it is complex. There's a lot of complexity, like you said, even dealing with these big retailers, they have deep pockets, and they have a lot of people in a room ready ready to go to court or deal with you however they need to, and so sometimes that does happen. And it's pretty shocking. You're like, how does that work? Like, we're a small business. Why would you do that to us? But they have shareholders. So
You know, if one of the most things or one of the things that like hits me the hardest is that a huge corporation that is so profitable. And I know business is business, but I'm also a person and that's how I approach this. And I'm a small business, so this is like my family's worth, right? And I'm sitting here being told that a mistake was made on their side and there was an over order, but you signed the contract and you agreed that any product that wasn't sold, we wouldn't pay you for. I was like, I don't remember signing that. I guess I did. I don't know. You told me yes, and so I signed wherever. But then to me, when I'm approaching a distributor or a customer and I'm saying, hey, look, take a chance on me. And for the first 6 months, a year, whatever, if you have product that doesn't sell, I'll cover that cost. Scotty, I can't afford to do that. But here I am doing it because I feel like it's just the ethical thing to do, or maybe the right thing to do, or maybe just because I'm small and I need people to take a chance on me. But I'm like, how is it with, me that has a cash flow of a potato? I don't know. Like, it's like nothing, and I'm willing to risk it all. But then the real profitable businesses are like, we're going to nickel and dime you for every single thing, even if it's not your fault. You may get that money back, but you're going to have to fight for it. You're going to have to prove that you deserve or earn that money and that, that deduction wasn't real or was an accident or wasn't legitimate. That's the stuff that like, oh, it drives me nuts, man. But not enough to quit.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Never enough to quit. And that's actually genuinely why I really started doing what I was doing or what I do now in being an advisor and a strategic advisor to people in the food and beverage space. Becoming a corporate and working for, big national franchise retail food company and seeing how that works, and then talking to people in the community, talking to people in my circle and networks that I know, and being a part of meeting those people that are a part of that statistic that didn't survive past their 5 years from a lot of the same struggles, those ebbs and flows of the bell curves that come and go through the business and from a financial standpoint. And it's hard, it's rough. And if you don't really understand what your numbers tell you, you usually don't know what to do about it. Or even if you do, you probably don't know what to do about it. And that's why people like me exist.
Yeah,
And it's hard. And I think, having a team behind you, especially, I think is great. And I know you had mentioned that you brought in a CEO, Charlie. Is that right?
that's right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And then you as a founder, I mean, that's it's kind of a nice thing to take a little bit of work off the plate, but
Oh,
curious too how to learn about kind of how that dynamic works between you guys, because a lot of founders don't probably have the resources to bring in a CEO and kind of step into that role so they can go be the face of the brand.
that's it. It was like a series of decisions and I'll say outcomes because of those decisions, consequences in a good way. It was like, yes, I was saved financially, but it's like, man, this guy, Charlie, who I used to work with at International Paper, always checked in with me. And when I started the business, he was so proud of me. And, he just began helping me. He's like, what do you need help with? And I'm like, man, I don't know how to, my margins, I don't even know how to do this. Right. And so it was little things that built and built and built. And then eventually, he reached his retirement age for International Paper, but he wasn't ready to just hang it up. And he starts his own business, a consulting firm. And it turns out that like I'm taking every single hour that he has available. And then one day the ask came, I'm like, Charlie, I need you full time. I can't pay you what I paid you at International Paper. Like that's not in the cards. But he said, it's not about the money, man. It's about, I have so many years left in this life. I'll be damned if I'm not going to spend it doing something or giving back in some way. And so this man has just turned the company around from an operational financial standpoint where he's willing to go and do all the things. He was a Marine, so we have that service connection. And, I don't mind even today or getting my hands dirty. And he's the same way. It's like we'll go do an event and we're out there like pouring cheese dip. We got stuff all over us. And we're both just smiling because it is the camaraderie, the people that we bring in, the conversations, and the work is just so meaningful to us. And so I'm fortunate to have a Charlie. And like I said, there's no blueprint for this, man. It's just who you impact along the way and the relationships you build. And gosh, if I had to do it over, I can't say I would do it any different, Scotty, because there's things I've learned that I would avoid. But like, I can't say that, oh, I shouldn't have done all those things because look at where I am now and look at where we're going. So I'm a happy camper, man. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm a no regrets guy too. There's no woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's, hey,
Yeah,
this happened and we did this. Now we learned from that, and if it didn't work or we fell on our face, well, let's not do that again.
that's right.
But
That's
if
right.
it
Hone it
worked and
in.
we succeeded, okay, let's keep exploring that route. And yeah, having somebody like Charlie sounds like is really opened up quite a bit of doors for you guys and really made it a lot easier. And I know you had some kind of withholding of getting into the veteran angle, that and kind of like the community aspect, like you were saying, like being out there at these events and having the cheese dip on you, having that, no chip left behind, mission. How important is that for you long term for Arbo Cheese to keep that, kind of brand equity?
Man, the question comes up like, what would you sell for today? And I don't have a number because it's not about doing all this work and selling it for 1 million or 5 million. Obviously, there's always a number, right? I don't know what that is. I'm not ready to step away from it because, for one, I would lose the rights to this name, right? I know one day I will, but I'm not ready for that because I don't want to get absorbed or acquired only to get rebranded under their brand or whatever it may be. It's like I've got to build up to that. And if it takes 10 years, so be it. I'm 41. I've got more time, right? And my kids are getting to the age where put their butts to work too, get some help around here. But
Yeah, that
I'll
tax write
just
off.
enjoy it too much to sell it right at this point. I'm gonna keep going. And one of the it's to me, I'm kind of black and white in a lot of ways, where all I need to hear is like one thing and I'll cling to it. And it was early on when someone Dots pretzels. You're familiar, I don't know if you've heard of Dots pretzels, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
Yeah, it's what, flour, egg, and water and some salt and seasoning,
Yeah.
sells to Hershey for 1.3 billion. I'm like, there's no reason I can't do that. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if I don't at least believe that it could happen, of course I won't get there. So if I fall short of that, okay, I tried, right? But at the end of the day, it's like it's not a get rich quick, right? It's not build this in a couple years and sell it, build it in 5, sell it. Like I'm at $1 million, right? And that's like the hardest next step is getting to 10 or even 5. And it's going to take another 5 years for me to get there, I think. Right. But I have to have goals and metrics and everything's got to be like perfectly aligned, meaning like I got to know my numbers. That has never been more critical now than I mean, it's critical day one, but day one, you're like, I'll deal with that later. And then your year one, year two, you're like, oh, I should have done that, but I'll do it later. And so you keep punting the things that are going to make you like a better business because all you're doing is hustling and grinding and trying to, figure out everything yourself. And the best part of all of this, Scotty, is we can say that we're $1 million company and I don't own a single asset, meaning like there is no inventory. I don't have a plant. I don't have a manufacturing facility. I don't have a truck. I own a laptop and built this by outsourcing at very thin margins, but all of this was created from a 16-ounce recipe. And to me, that's what I have to remind myself when I get down. I'm like, look at what you did in 5 years, dude. So
Yeah, it's a huge feat. Yeah. That point of scaling from a million to even 3 million and then 3 to 5 and then 5 to 10. I have this thing I call it growth tax. And so the growth tax is the bigger you get, the easier it is for money to slip through the cracks. So that's what you were saying is very important. Yeah. To know your numbers and know where things are, know where things are moving, especially as you start to scale. Build that financial foundation first and then really start to scale the business because if not, you get that growth tax. Because if things are slipping through now, imagine what they are 10x the size of your business.
that's
We're
right.
not talking about tens of thousands. Now we're talking about hundreds of thousands. So that's a good thing that you guys are there. I wanted to ask you though, if there's a veteran sitting at home right now who maybe has an idea or they have a family recipe and they're thinking about how they can maybe build something the same way you did, what would you tell them?
It has to be more than good. And what I mean by that is it doesn't have to be the best product on the market. I mean, good is one thing, idea is one thing. But if it is not what you're willing to sacrifice your life doing, then don't do it. Or find that one thing that is. If it's a service, if it is a product, either way, it's like, don't struggle by coming up with ideas or doing things that you're not really in love with and absolutely crazy about. And I mean, like, people have called me insane, right? And it may be true, but I'm insane about what this is and what this means to me. And it is the only way for me to see my future evolve. And so that's really I'm like, I'm not gonna say like don't do it if you aren't don't do it if you're not in love with it. You have to be in love with it. And that's just to get you started, right? And then that resiliency that's going to come in from your time in the military or even the hardships that you've gone through life. My experience in the military is relative to someone else who's a civilian and what they've gone through in their hardships, right? So use those hardships as motivation to get you going. And then from there, man, attitude. That's it.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, this has been a real one. I appreciate you pulling back the curtain, not just, on the wins, but on the real stuff too. I think it's truly, truly a story that people needed to hear. But where can people find Arbos? Like on socials, stores?
Well, yeah. So we're in select Kroger stores, Walmart. We just added Giant Food out of the Maryland, DC area, and we're adding Shaw's in the Northeast. And really, it's like the best way to find it would be going to the website. It's just arbosdip.com. And there's a store locator. Figure out where the store is closest to you, and you can find it there, or you can order it online as well. But our tagline is Arbo's Dip for all social and website as well.
Perfect. Well, thanks for being on the SKU, man. Genuinely, this was a really good one. And I'll see you next time on Behind the SKU.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, Scotty. I appreciate you.